Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 230 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. In this episode, we're going to be diving into the next generation ACE. The Gen 4 is coming soon. Super excited about all the big changes coming here and what it means to us as far as the modern manufacturing and assembly of a bolt-action rifle. We'd also like to talk about Know Your Rifle and having somebody else working on maintaining and doing adjustments for you in the field, in the class, absolutely catastrophic. It is something that we deal with here probably at least on a monthly basis. And the reason you should take classes and know your rifle inside and out, how to maintain it and take care of it. So that'll be a great podcast. Without further ado, here we go. All right, before we get started, I would like to say a quick thank you to TriggerTech. TriggerTech is the maker of fine rifle triggers. They are made in a lot of different configurations with pull weights going from 3.5 pounds down to ounces. They make a straight shoe, a curved shoe, what we believe is one of the easiest to install, easiest to adjust triggers on the market today. And did we mention we believe the safest? So if you want to upgrade your rifle and you would like to do it with a trigger, you can learn more about that at triggertech.com. That's triggertech.com today. We'd also like to thank MDT. MDT is the maker of fine rifle chassis. They make a wide variety from some of the best competition chassis on the market today to some of the best entry chassis like the Oryx. So if you want to upgrade your rifle, a good place to start with a factory gun is to replace the stock with one that fits you well and will do the job it's asked to do. So you can learn more about MDT and look at their fine selection at mdttac.com. That's mdttac.com today. Something we deal with here on a regular basis, at least monthly, and sometimes quite often more than that, is a rifle coming in here with damage. Damage not just from the neglect of the owner, but the neglect of the owner to know the rifle and how to take care of it and maintain it, him or herself. So we did a video that's going to be popping out on YouTube here in a couple of days. If you would like to see the video, I think it's worthwhile stopping over to see the amount of damage that can be done when you turn your rifle over to a trusted authority figure at a class, at an event, or even a local gunsmith that says they know what they're doing, and the results are devastating. We have seen so much damage done to rifles over the years, done by people that were trusted by the customer. You know, it wasn't like they just gave it to some stranger on the street and said, hey, you know how to do all this. And, you know, that we would assume that was just be stupid, right? But these are handing it off to people who give the false appearance of being experts in the field. And they may be experts at long range shooting or teaching or something about manufacture of bullets, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to work on a rifle or that you handing them your prize rifle is going to make a difference, and are you going to get it back undamaged? You're trusting these people, and more often than not, you are leaving yourself wide open to massive amounts of damage to the rifle itself, and on the hook for the repairs, and at an event where it usually falls apart and ruining the rest of your event. So without getting into too many details, again, you can stop over to YouTube and watch the video. I did a little review on this rifle, but the customer that owns this rifle, great customer, been to several events with ours. I remember building the rifle. It's a beautiful rifle. It's really got this unique yellow stock to it that just really pops. He had gone to a 7-day shooting event run by someone who prior military service, long range shooting school, list goes on, right? And for whatever reason, I guess he needed his scope adjusted back for his eye relief. My guess is that they're possibly training off a tripod or something, in which case you can't zoom in the whole way without your eye relief getting funky or getting that little black ring around there. And so they're going to compensate that by moving the scope back, which isn't something I would recommend doing. I would just shoot at the highest magnification, which you can see the big field of view, and not move the scope to compensate. But that said, here we go. He brought his rifle in to be rebarreled. I'm not sure if it needed rebarreled. I'm not sure of his round count. My guess is it got rebarreled or was getting rebarreled because it stopped shooting. The customer brought the rifle in here to our facility to tear it down and start getting it ready for the new barrel. And right out of the gate, I couldn't get his scope off. His rings were tightened onto the pick rail so tight that they were squeaking and squealing as I was trying to undo them. Probably at least 65 inch-pounds and probably way more than that. It actually embedded the scope rings on the bottom where they grab a hold of the pick rail. They embedded themselves in the aluminum base. Oh, it gets even better. When we finally got the scope off, and by the way, a set of badger rings, for example, old school badger rings, that whole locking mechanism is steel. So from the nut that's on one side to the piece that's on the other that's pulling those rings together on that base, those are steel, in which you can get away with 65 inch-pounds. The rings that this customer had on, they were definitely steel screws, but it was threaded aluminum on the other side right through the ring itself, in which case over-tightening strips these, right? Or damages them, to say the least. When we got the scope off, we realized that the front screw had been stripped out and wasn't holding anything. The rear screw was missing, and the two middle screws had been worked on. In other words, they ground them because they couldn't get them to fit, and they were in the wrong position. And because whoever put it together realized there was only two screws holding this, way over-tightened them and actually embedded them into the base itself. Like literally started crushing the aluminum base. And it's not the first time we've seen this. If you over-tighten those screws that hold your aluminum base on your rifle, you can definitely distort them and damage them. You can strip the screws. There's just a ton of things that can happen that can cause you a fair amount of issues with this. The problem was that this was during a class. So at best, the rifle stopped shooting as well. Worst case scenario, the rifle stopped shooting at all. And with a 20 MOA pick rail, in other words, the pick rail slanted, so it's thicker in the back and thinner in the forward part of the receiver where it's attached, there are two short screws in the front, two long screws in the back. They had them wrong. And so in my mind, and being around rifles, with all the years we've been doing this, every tilted or canted pick rail that I've ever put on has short screws in the front because the pick rail is thinner, and they've got longer screws in the back because the pick rail is thicker. How they got them messed up, I have no idea, but they also ground them to make up for them being in the wrong position, so they shortened them. And in the process, they actually stripped one of the front screws out. I think even going one step further, when we take his top of his ring caps off his scope, we're going to find that the scope is probably damaged or at least close to it. My guess is if they went through and tightened all of that up beyond anywhere close to factory recommendations, is they probably did it to everything. And here's where you're going to find damage. If they over-tighten that scope ring to the scope itself, by the way, it was a call list, it cost nearly $4,000. They can damage the tube. They can also distort the tube, so the tube will actually squeeze, making it out of round. And in doing so, that puts tension and pressure under and on the erector set that actually does your travel. So you're binding all of that really intricate gearing because you're compressing the tube and you're putting stress on it. And then that stuff starts to fail. So the train wreck that starts slow continues until everything is off the tracks. And for me personally, there's two parts to this that I think are really important. Number one is I am absolutely shocked that, and I don't want to throw the name of the school out there because I'm not sure who did it. Was it the instructor or one of the helpers? You just never know. It could have been somebody who was just helping there for free that did it, so it might not have been an intentional or complete neglect. It might have just been somebody just wanting to help and not knowing how to and just assuming, and then here we go. But that's only part of the problem. The other part was that the customer didn't take the time to do it himself, nor did he supervise it, nor did he help. He handed his rifle off to somebody who said they were an expert at it. Obviously, he had faith in it or wouldn't have given it to him, and he depended on that person's ability for their enjoyment. And this happens all the time. One of the big things with like the online classes that we're pushing. For example, we're working on the online reloading class. There's 2 more videos going up this week. We got an email again today, this morning, of a gentleman asking about, hey, under these certain conditions, I've read online that it's recommended to use a Magnum primer. I looked in the books. There's no such thing as a Magnum primer for this particular rifle. They're all regular large rifle primers, at least the ones that I've seen. And emailed him back, instructed, Lori here in our office, hey, just reply back, go buy the book, follow it to the T, and we do not see anything that mentions large rifle primers. Stop reading the stuff on forums and internets and join us on our online reloading class. But that's all I can say. And the fact that the customer is asking us our opinion without looking it up himself is the part that I'm trying to deal with, as far as like getting into the customer's head and getting into the shooter's head, that you shouldn't even be asking me. Not that I don't appreciate the phone call, not that I don't appreciate the email. Of course, I really am honored that you would think of me as an expert in these fields and that you would want to contact me and ask me these questions. I mean, that's really awesome, right? My wife would say, make my head swell a little bit bigger than what it is. But I don't want you to do that. Not only do I not want you to go on a forum and start reading all this crap that people throw out there that's going to cause you issues, but don't even email me, look in the book, follow the book, the letter by letter, line by line. And that's what I said in the email, like, join us in this class, because we're going to tell you over and over again, here are some ways to do things, and here are things to take into consideration. Here is 1,000 things we've learned the hard way to make really good quality ammunition. But you're also going to hear me say over and over and over again is go and open the book and read it, follow it, use it, line by line, piece by piece. Do not deviate from what it says, and you'll never have a problem. Happens with reloading, and it happens with people working on your rifle. I mean, I explained in the last class and sort of shared my story with a professional gunsmith who hacked my personal 22-250 to pieces betting it, and cost me in a championship match 2 weeks later with a rifle that was bedded improperly, moving around in the stock. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I trusted that person. My response to that was, I'm going to learn to bed the rifle myself. And that's exactly what I did. And so when you're working with and you have a prized rifle, you should know the 13 or 14 specs that's required to move stuff, to adjust stuff, to tighten stuff, and you should invest in the tools. If you really think about it, how simple this really is, right? You've got your action screws, usually short in the front, long in the back. You've got what inch pounds it's saying to tighten them to. It's usually 45 to 65 inch pounds, somewhere in there, unless it's a plastic stock, in which it can be less. You've got your base. You've got your scope rings on top, the caps, and where they tighten to the base. I mean, there's only a handful of specs that you really have to know. Now, there's some tricks to getting it into the stock correctly. There's some tricks to make sure that you're seated against a recoil lug. There's some tricks to look for all the little problems that come up, which there are. And one of the things we're going to do here in the upcoming building classes, or the prosumer gunsmithing classes, we're going to build a rifle in every model that you see on our website with you. And then we're going to show you all the things that you have to look for that you normally don't find. But if you look long enough or you build enough rifles, you will. And these little things can cause you a ton of issues and heartache at the range. It's just amazing. And so we had a perfect example of a rifle that came in on Friday that was damaged. I mean, we had to order a new base. The base is damaged. We had to order new screws because one was stripped and one was lost, not even in the gun. And my guess is we may have to order new rings once we pull the rest of it apart and look at it. If the customer had learned or had taken the time, he could have easily adjusted that scope himself. And we're going to share with you how to do it. We're going to share with you everything about these rifles and how to properly take care of them. I remember years ago going to matches, and it wasn't uncommon for somebody's scope to loosen up. And people would panic, like they're in the middle of a 2 or 3 day match and their scope just moved. I remember breaking out, and I remember driving to my vehicle and getting all my gunsmithing tools, because I have all the tools for my rifle. They stay with my rifle. They're in my shooter's bag. you only need a handful of like Allen keys and torque wrenches to work on your entire rifle. That little kit could probably fit in the palm of your hand. So why you wouldn't have it on your hunting trip is beyond me, but a lot of the tools for other rifles I might not have, right? So I literally left the firing line in a side-by-side, and it took 15 to 20 minutes to get back to the vehicles, to get in there, to get my big toolkit out so I could fix this person's rifle on the line so he could finish enjoying his match. I did it. I didn't ask him for anything. It was no problem. I'm glad to help. Now I keep all those tools with me, and everywhere we go, they're in my bag. I even have a thing in there to knock stuck bullets out when somebody gets a squib load or something that we can help out with. So, having your own tools is one thing. Having tools to help others is another. I would really not recommend for you to work on somebody's rifle that you don't know, really, because if you damage it, if you scratch it, if something custom was done to it and you don't catch it, you're going to be blamed, right? They're going to hook you on this and say, "Hey, that's your responsibility. You did that." At the school here, at the in-person long-range shooting school, I often ask the customer if they would like me to help with their permission. So let's just say they bring a custom rifle made by another gunsmith. It happens. So I'll ask the customer, "Hey, you want me to fix that? Now listen, you got to release me from any liability if I scratch or damage something. I'm not an expert on this rifle. I'll give you the tools and you can do it yourself. And if you would like, I'll try to help you. But I don't want to be on the hook if we scratch something or something slips or, I don't want that to happen and interfere with my relationship with that customer who's here for the shooting school, not here for me to work on his rifle." And I would say 99.9% of the time, the customer's like, "Oh, no, please, go ahead. And if you can fix it, that would be great." And we'll do it. I did have one customer last year. I think I had double vision. It was the first time I ever seen a muzzle brake turn from 1 to 2. This is a true story. So we are under, we got new machines going in. One of the installs had a motherboard that was bad. I mean, just a lot of pressure and stress. They brought their own coolant for in the machines. And then, of course, they're giving us a hard time about bringing in the correct coolant. And so I was under a lot of stress. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it was like 7 a.m. and the first day of the class, and the customer's like, "Hey, you got to get my muzzle brake off my rifle." And I'm looking at him. I'm like, "You didn't take your muzzle brake." He needs to run a suppressor. And I was like, "You didn't take your muzzle brake off?" He goes, "Oh, no. I figured somebody here would do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So go get your rifle, bring it on in." Well, he brought it all in. A nice looking rifle. I'm not sure if it was a full blown custom, but a nice looking rifle nonetheless. Yeah, the muzzle brake was glued on. It was definitely Loctited with either, red Loctite or something like that. And so I looked at the customer and I was like, "Look, this is Loctited on here. There's a chance that something could slip, whether it's the barrel, we're holding it in a vise, or the tool taking off the muzzle brake itself." It was all Cerakote. And I was like, "There's a chance we could mar or mark the finish on this trying to get this off. And I don't want to be responsible for that. So if I'll try to get it off for you, but you got to release me from that and agree that if we mark it up or something that you're not going to be mad at us or hold us responsible." And the customer looked right at me and was like, "Oh, no, if you scratch it, you have to fix it, right?" And that's what he said to me. That muzzle brake, honest to goodness, turned into 2. I was looking at the muzzle brake and I had double vision, really bad. And I was like, "Am I having a stroke?" Got my head back and I was like, I never had that happen before. I'm looking and I'm like, I just said to the customer, "Here's the deal. Here's the tools. You try to take it off, or you can use a school rifle, because I can't be responsible for taking your brake off of your rifle to put my suppressor on it. And then if something gets scratched, you hold us responsible. So you're here for the shooting school. You didn't hire me to be your gunsmith on somebody else's rifle. So your choice. You can try to take it off, or you can use a school rifle. Either way is absolutely fine with us." And then he finally caved in and was like, "Well, just be careful." And I'm like, well, of course we'll be careful. I don't want to damage anybody's rifle. But I had many, many years ago, I had a customer, true story, that was awesome. We did all this work for him, and he wanted this suppressor install done. And of course, back then we had a very short headstock in the lathe that we did suppressors on, so we didn't have to take the receiver off. And we used spiders, of course, and so we could dial the curvature of the bore of the rifle out really well and just get a perfect alignment. And of course, we're holding it in a chuck, where right before we're getting ready to crown it and cut it. And this is a manual machine, not in the current machine we're using now. And, we do the best we can do to protect the finish of the barrel, but we have to hold it. We're spinning it at like 1100 RPMs, right? There's a lot of centrifugal force and we're cutting on it with tools. So we usually put like a little protective piece. There's a trick with using cardstock underneath the jaws that'll sort of help prevent marking or marring the jaw at all, or the barrel from the jaws. And it really didn't mark it. You could just see like the little high spots of the chuck onto the barrel, but it wasn't marked per se. It was like a polished part of the black Cerakote. So think of like a black Cerakote barrel, and you can see these little dots that were like a little bit shinier, but still black, right? And the customer come over and he looked at it, and of course everything aligned perfect. And then it was like, hey, what about that mark on the barrel? And I was like, what mark? He goes, the one where you held it in the lathe. And I'm like, we told you that was a possibility. That's us having to hold it with enough force so it doesn't move. Yeah, the customer sort of got angry about it and demanded that we re-Cerakote its entire barrel to action. And it was a factory gun, by the way. So I did it. I took hours and hours, tore the whole rifle down, used aluminum oxide, preheated it, baked it, torqued it back out, cleaned it all up, Cerakoted it, baked it, took it all back out, put it all back together and handed it to him. And that was the last time we offered custom gunsmithing service here on anything other than our own rifles. That was the last of it. And it was like one of those things that, we tell the customers up front that this can happen, that damage can't happen. That's fair. What's not fair is to throw it back on you trying to help somebody out, right? And so, for example, had the person working on this customer's rifle come out and say, hey, I don't have a lot of experience with this. I may damage something. You sure you don't want to do this yourself? And then I think my customer would have probably taken it upon himself to figure it out or look up the specs online. Every single one of these rifles have specs online that you could go to and get all the specifications that you need to tighten and loosen all the parts and pieces that are on it. So that said, a lot of the gunsmithing or prosumer gunsmithing classes that we're getting ready to offer are for this reason, because we spend as much time dealing with this stuff as we do with actually doing the work that is part of our business. So making aces, doing machining, doing barrel work, designing products, that is our business. Our business isn't and never was meant to be bringing in stuff that was made by us and then fixing stuff that was damaged by others. And, a fair amount of time. And we had a meeting about it and we discussed about repairs and services, work that's done that's not damaged by ours. Like, for example, we had a customer shooting high pressure loads that was made by a quote unquote custom ammunition maker. He was calling, complaining his ejector pin was stuck and blah, blah, blah. Shaved brass off it and he sent it back. I got it all cleaned up, took it all apart, got all the brass out that was in it, and sent it back to him. I didn't charge him for any of it. Well, a company meeting later, and we're going to have an hourly charge for this because we have to. It pulls us away from our core part of our business, fixing things that we didn't break with neglect that we didn't do. And we have to have an hourly rate on it. We're losing tons of money every year helping people out, fixing things that we didn't break or problems that weren't ours or self-induced issues that can happen, for example, with the high-pressure rounds. So the prosumer gunsmithing class that's going to be kicking off here in a couple weeks is going to be all of this, plus every single rifle that you see on our website built online. You can see it. You can watch it. Everything you're going to have to order, everything you're going to need, all the tools you're going to need, how to properly send it, how to put the ace on, how to put the barrel on, how to make sure it's all there. Plus, the bonus content is going to be all the things you're going to have to look for when you put it together that could be mistakes that are common at any of the manufacturers of these products, in which case you're going to have to do a little corrective surgery to make sure that the rifle shoots the way it's supposed to and that these things aren't going to negatively affect the accuracy. So the online reloading class is first. Of course, there's 2 new videos coming out this week. As soon as the online reloading class is done, we're going to start right into the prosumer gunsmithing classes in an effort not just to help our own customers, but to help everybody else out there. You have a factory Tikka, you've got a factory Ruger, you're going to replace the stock, you're going to look for all of this stuff on how to properly install things. it's a great asset to you. We've got decades and decades and decades of experience of doing this stuff and trying not to break anything to share with you to help you get the most from the equipment, help take care of it properly and to get the most out of it. And of course, educate you on how to do it yourself so you don't wind up with our customer whose rifle is here with hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of damage done in probably what I would guess 15 to 20 minutes by the person who did it trying to help him out. On one of the more interesting side notes and one of the more exciting times here at Wolf Precision is the release of the Gen 4 Ace. When we start talking about the Gen 4, what we're talking about is a rifle chamber made separate of the barrel, of course, and there's accuracy increased. There's all these cool benefits to it. But the Gen 4 is designed by the customer to install the chamber themselves. They change the chamber themselves and to recycle the chamber. So we got a chance to talk with a couple guys. One of them, we just bought a Primal Rights primer seeding tool. So we have some new tools for the reloading class we're going to be sharing with you and one that I'm anxious to try and get some results with. But in talking to Greg, we was talking all about the Gen 4H because he remembers when the Gen 1 came out. And, think about like trying to buy a rifle chamber job. Like if you're going to get into long range shooting, me and Bruce were actually talking about this last week as well from Bat Machine. You're going to get into long range shooting. You're going to get a custom rifle built. You're going to wait. You're going to wait a long time for a good quality gunsmith. Bruce got done fixing a rifle that a quote unquote quality gunsmith stuck the barrel in the receiver twice wrong and got it jammed. Basically galled it in there. And the guy sent it back to the same gunsmith to do the second barrel, and the same thing happened again. When he sent it back to Bruce, Bruce was like, don't send it back to that gunsmith, whatever you do, right? Same thing with another rifle that he had found that the custom die that the customer was using to seat the bullet was bumping the shoulder back 30 thou, blowing the cases. So a lot of this custom work that you'll see people do, a lot of the barrel work that you see people do, a lot of the gunsmiths, there's only a handful of gunsmiths in this country that really know what they're doing when it comes to working around a machine, as well as being able to cut a great chamber. So we figured if you're willing to pay $385 for a chamber job, what would it be like to buy a rifle chamber for $385 that will last you the rest of your life? That you can reuse over and over again, and that you never have to send out, ever. That's warranted for life. Then we get into the barrel and the barrel work. When we do the barrel to accept an ace, the starting cost with all the barrel work is $520 for the barrel, with a crown and with the threads to accept the ace. So a little bit of investment on the front end, but then we can do these barrels. We're done them, and they're out. And we have several different manufacturers that we can choose from that will cut the lead time down to 6 to 8 weeks and give you a great quality barrel when you're ready for it. Or we have customers that think ahead and order something like a Bartline that can be 6 months, or a Krieger that can be 8 months, and sometimes order 2 or 3, put them on the shelf or do the machining work and send them off. But the savings part of it long term is the fact that there's no downtime. When we do a barrel, it is really straight up. It's actually incredible to watch. The quality of the modern CNC and the ability for these things to cut and the speeds in which they cut, it just, to this day, just blows my mind. But a $420 barrel and $100 to do the machining work to accept the ace and crown it, a small additional fee if you want it threaded for a muzzle brake. Of course, you can buy a thread protector. Of course, we can bead blast it and Cerakote it and all these other things. But at a starting price for replacement barrels, for your ace that you purchase is $520 with the barrel and all the machining work to get it started. And that's with a good quality barrel. So we're super excited on May 1st. We have made our first run of 223s. We're working on the 22 Creeds as we speak. On May 1st, we are going to start the launch of our ace system Gen 4 that is consumer-based, consumer-installed, that you can purchase. It would be like calling your gunsmith and having him ship you the chamber job the next day. And it get in the mail, and you just put it on. And it's perfect every single time. And when you need a barrel, if you think a little bit ahead of time, it can already be on the shelf ready for you to change out the parts, and with very simple hand tools. So Later this week, we're going to start doing some teaser videos on the Gen 4As, giving you a little sneak peek as to behind the scenes. And then we are going to completely ramp up for the bad actions. So we're talking the VRs, the TRs, the hammerheads, the Vespers, all of the bats that we sell bad actions here, and that's what we build on. That's where we're going to start. And we would like to be the premier supplier of high quality chambers and barrels for all bad actions. Then be ready for step 2 of our long-term plan here and what's coming afterwards, because we're super excited as to the next step with the Gen 4H that we're working on here. So if you want to see some sneak peeks, you can just keep a watch out on our YouTube or Facebook. We're going to post some stuff up there. Of course, if you would like to see this rifle that I'm talking about and actually physically see some of the damage that was done to it by this quote-unquote professional at this shooting school, you can stop over to our YouTube channel. And of course, if you would like to learn all the ways not to do these things, we'd like to encourage you to sign up for either our online reloading class, our online long-range shooting school, and soon to be coming our online prosumer gunsmithing school, which we're excited to launch later this year. We had a couple Q&As. I want to dive into one of them real quick, and we were talking about Cerakote and Cerakote application versus bead blast versus a light polish. I am a big fan of bead blasting barrels. It gives it a nice matte finish. It breaks up the surface a little bit rather than a high polish. So a high polish or semi-high polished barrel, if you bump it against things, you rub it against things, it just leaves ugly marks down the side of it. It's sort of like having a really highly waxed car and taking a smudgy finger and running down the side of a black car. It might not scratch the paint. It's definitely going to leave a mark. You know, it's not going to look nice. You're going to see it. Same thing happens. It's not really scratching it. It's just marring the surface that you'll see it really, really bad. With the bead blast, one of the things I love a lot about bead blast, and this is the common question we get asked here, is that if you do fall in the rocks or you bang your rifle against something really hard and you put a big old mark down the side of it, you can just take a little bit of steel wool and a little bit of gun oil, and you can wipe the length of the barrel. Just give it a nice, easy wipe the whole way around. And most of the time, that little mark will disappear and you won't even see it, and the rifle looks in as good as new condition. One of the other reasons, and this was a customer's asked question, is why we really like the bead blast over Cerakote. And it's not that I'm an anti-Cerakote guy. I really think Cerakote's the best product on the market if you're going to coat your barrel. But one of the reasons why I really like to not do it is it helps the barrel breathe better. Cerakote is a ceramic application. Ceramic, or any type of paint or coating like that, is an insulator, and it does create a barrier to let that barrel breathe and cool down. Here at the shooting school, we abuse these barrels. We shoot a lot. These barrels get hot. And so giving that barrel every chance to just bleed off every degree that it can as fast as it can is only adding to the barrel life. Where when you get into Cerakote and even carbon fiber barrels, they hide the heat or they stop it from being, whether it's convection or conduction, being released from the barrel itself. One of the early studies with carbon fiber was people said it helped the barrel cool faster, and that the resins that they used when they cured the carbon actually helped draw the heat out. What we have found, at least here at the school, is we can shoot 10 rounds for a training exercise and have stainless barrels and carbon barrels on the line. And we can touch the steel barrels after 10 rounds and they're already hot. And you touch the carbon fiber barrel at the same time, you'll notice it's not as hot. However, though, if you wait 5 minutes and come back, the steel barrels are actually cooling down while the carbon barrels are still getting warmer. So it's just taking longer to dissipate that heat and draw it out through the surface. And so for that reason alone, a lot of times I actually prefer to bead blast barrels. I find it to be the best way to do it. And, easy to take care of, easy maintenance. Now, if you absolutely must have it Cerakoted, then air cured is probably the route that I would consider. And heat, using the oven cured H series is what we've used here forever. But with carbon barrels, you got to be really careful. They do not want that temperature over 250 degrees or else it can potentially damage the carbon wrap or the materials used to put it all together. Think of all the resins. And so for that reason, I think the air cured is probably a little bit better in the fact that you don't have to cook the barrel off. And by the way, when you use the 8 series Cerakote, you have to cook the barrel twice. You actually have to preheat the barrel and cook at the temperature to make sure that there's any hidden oils that are in the pores of the steel come out, or else it'll ruin your Cerakote job. And so I think if you're going to do it, just go ahead and Cerakote it with air cured. I think it's absolutely fine. We're going to start doing more of that here. And I wouldn't Cerakote the ace. I would probably mask off just in front of the ace, and that way it doesn't interfere with getting the next Gen 4 tools on and off, and you won't mark it all up. You won't see it. So if you get in there with Cerakote, you'll notice that, of course, depending on how thick you spray it can cause some clearance issues with the tools, but also slide the tools on and on. You can mark it. Now, you can even mark it in your barrel vise. So if you over tighten with a barrel vise, or you don't use some type of shim stock or drywall tape to protect the barrel, when you're clamping down on it, you'll create those shiny spots like I was talking about with that customer that wanted the muzzle brake installed on his factory rifle and threaded for a suppressor, that it left those shiny spots in the black. And it does the same thing with Cerakote when you actually grip onto it with the barrel vise. So when you're looking at Cerakote, or you're trying to make those options, I try to weigh everything. I try not to tell the customer what to do. I just give them my honest opinion. And I thought that was a great conversation to have. And I thought maybe good information to share here on the podcast on really what our experience was and what we recommend. So if you get a chance and you're going to work with this stuff, we always try to take everything that we're going to use the rifle for into consideration. So again, if it has to be Cerakote for whatever reason, that's just the way it is. If it doesn't have to be, then maybe consider just a bead blast. So we want to take just a quick moment and thank our last sponsor, Krieger Barrels, the maker of fine cut rifle barrels. They're made in the great state of Wisconsin. They are a family-owned and operated business. One of the oldest custom barrel makers here in the United States, one of the best, hold lots of records. They make a new program now where you can order your barrel and have it in as little as 2 to 3 business days. It is called Krieger Direct, where they post barrels regularly for sale, and that you can actually log on, get your barrel, and have it. Now, it's not every make and model every time. They try to do production runs to put up for sale so you don't have to wait the 8 to 9 months of a typical lead time. When we have customers we're working with here, we try to keep some Krieger barrels in stock. If not, we will order them. We always recommend that you try to think about it the year out. So if you're shooting 2026 and you want barrels for 2026, I would order them now and have them on the shelf ready to go, and then just swap your ace over. You get a chance, you want to see the new Gen 4 ace that's being launched on May 1st. Super excited about the promo launch. We will be doing some introductory classes here that'll be no charge. You can sign up for and come in and sort of spend lunch with us, get something good to eat, and share with you some installation videos. If you are a promoter, or you are a gunsmith, or if you are a store owner and you would like to see the ace in person or consider using it for your system, please reach out to us. We will be working with some select dealers and programs out there that try to help and turn the ace into a product that is a product that purchased, not a chamber that has to be basically installed by a machinist or a skilled machinist. So looking forward to 2025. It's been 7 years of hard work to this point. We're super excited to where we're at. A long road to get here, and we're certainly looking forward to the next 3 or 4 years as we really ramp up to change this industry on how we chamber a modern bolt-action rifle. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us. If you like the podcast and you'd like to leave a comment down below, we certainly appreciate it. If you'd like to share it, that helps us a lot with our ratings as well. But thank you for joining us. My name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you're listening to Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.